And so when I'm speaking now to you or speaking to someone who, again, has that iota of faith, or maybe someone who doesn't know, what I would be kind of saying if I was Moses nowadays is there's a God out there, and the answer to all your questions, the context of your whole life is answered in him. If you go to him, if you turn to him, if you sit down at his feet, everything will make sense. It might not explain why you went through this or why you went through that, but it will give you a greater context, and true relationship and true fellowship and true meditation and reading on his word, you will come to a greater understanding of who he is and who you are. In fact, you will come to a greater understanding of who you are because you know who he is. If you know who he is, then you will know who you are. So when the children of Israel heard this, they're like, okay, well, we have recourse to this most powerful being in the universe. So the possibilities are endless. The suffering and the strivings and the bondage and the slavery that we're undergoing here in Egypt, there is a real out of this. There is a real way out of this. And I can see how when they heard this, I can certainly understand how they had faith in this. They're like, oh yeah, sure, definitely. And we see that when Abraham says it to them, eventually when he goes to Egypt, that haven't heard the name and haven't seen the signs, they fell on their feet and worshipped. They bowed their heads. That was obviously a cultural thing, but then also it was like, okay, yeah. I mean, this is probably something that they haven't, I mean, some of them had done it, I guess. I mean, if by God's grace, the idea of God had been passed down through families up until that point. But as is usual and typical with human life, there's always people who turn around, right? There's always people who forget. There's always people who are in search of less accountability. They don't want to have to respond to God, and they don't want to have a relationship with God. They just kind of want to live their lives. Everything makes sense. They know what they have to do. They go out to work, they do the work, they make their money, and, you know, that kind of makes the world go round. It makes their world go round anyways. And this brings us to that original verse. You know, the land that I'm promising to bring you to is not like the land of Egypt where you did this and this was the result and it was kind of clear action and consequence. In this new place that you're going, it's entirely up to me. I'm your God. And if you obey and you serve me, and if you obey me with all your heart, love me, all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength, love your neighbor as you love yourself, you're going to eat the good of the land. So I can see how when they heard this message, on one hand, it's like, yes, this is the greatest thing that has ever happened to us. This is the greatest thing in our lifetimes. And this is that same God that, you know, we've heard something about, but we just couldn't join the dots. And then on the other hand, it's like, okay, how? And the how was just trust me. And that is always the how. The how is listen to what I'm saying. Listen to the implications of who I am. And if you come to a full understanding of who I am, and if you allow an understanding to form of who I am, and if you listen to Moses and if you listen to Aaron, and you understand, and you have your little bit of simple faith in me, you will see the possibilities are endless. And that was the task that faced the children of Israel, and that's the task that faces everyone today who wants to turn to Jesus. Everyone today who wants to continue on the journey that they are in. We're all on a journey. We're on a journey from knowing him to knowing him more. We're on a journey from not knowing him to beginning to know him. We're on a journey from self-dependence. We're on a journey from independence to complete dependence on him. And now, for some people, this is a continuum. It's not two absolute ends of the scale. There's some people who go from independence and then they go to kind of semi-independence, and then kind of semi-independence, and then semi-dependence, and then finally total dependence.